Hey guys, Coach Jason here. Today's video, I want to go over 6 things that I feel are very important, whether suggestions or 6 tips that'll help you become a more efficient runner, a healthier runner, and an overall better runner. Okay, so let's get to the details. The first one I want to go over is shoes. Some of this stuff is self-explanatory, but when I was in college, I did run high school and college, cross country and track and so on. But I worked at a running specialty store when I was in college, and we outfitted recreational runners, walkers, joggers, competitive runners, and up to professional runners. And we learned a few very important things that I want to share that you may or may not know. Okay, number one, it takes 48 hours or approximately 48 hours for the cushioning of a shoe to get back to its original size, and for the shock absorption abilities to get back to its original state or close to it. So, with that logic, if you're wearing the same shoe every day, the deterioration is going to happen much faster. You won't be able to get as much life out of your shoes, okay? So if you can alternate, if it's within your means to get a second pair of shoes to alternate back and forth, you will get a lot more life out of your shoes, okay? So you get about 350 to 400 miles if you use the same pair of shoe every day, and then you really start to feel the deterioration, okay? You'll feel it in your legs. If you alternate 2 shoes, then you get about 500 or 550, even 600 miles per shoe. So if you think about 1,200 miles, you can get that off of 2 shoes instead of having to get a 3rd shoe here. So not only does it save your legs, but it saves your pocketbook and your wallet too. So it's a more cost-efficient way of doing things if you can do it. Okay. Secondly, I want to talk about flexibility and mobility. Okay. It's not only important for sprints and fast running, it's also important for distance running, marathon training, okay? There are a lot of different concepts, or a lot of different philosophies with stretching, okay? Many of which you're probably familiar with. I'm a very strong proponent of active stretching or active isolated stretching, okay? Because it's sport specific. Static stretching is not sport specific, okay? I actually have a video. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get access to it. I completely broke down an active isolated stretching routine that's specific to running. Okay, that goes over everything from your hips to your glutes, your calves, your hamstrings, your quads, your groin, your core, your upper body. And what it does is, by actively stretching and holding a stretch for 2 to 3 seconds and releasing and do about 8 or 10 reps for each side, you're actively isolating one muscle at a time without irritating the rest of your body. And what I mean by that is, you've seen this hamstring stretch, right? You're leaning over and you're trying to touch your hamstrings. What if you have bad knees, or what if you have a bad back? That's not necessarily the ideal stretch for you. So these stretches that I put in the video take you through a routine that allows you to actively focus on one area without irritating any other area of your body. What it also does is, by being active, it pumps blood into the body. Okay? It gets the body temperature up, pumps blood into the muscles. So think about this too. If you're out in the cold, and we're approaching the fall, so the weather's going to start getting cooler soon, if you're statically stretching, right, and you're waiting for your race to start, and you're out there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're holding a stretch, you're not warming up, okay? And if you ever held a stretch for a while and it starts to feel a little uncomfortable, that's the stretch reflex, or something called the myotatic reflex, telling you to back off, okay? It's causing slight little micro tears in the muscle, okay? So I encourage you to watch this video because it's very informative, and it could be the difference between needing 2 or 3 or 4 miles to feel loose for a run, or feeling loose and good right out the door. I mean, it really is a huge difference between the two, so I encourage you to watch that video. Okay. Next thing I want to go over is cadence and rhythm. Okay. Running rhythm, whether it be in a run or a race, the idea is to conserve as much energy as possible, specifically for the longer races, right? Okay. You start to get fatigued, in a half marathon or even a marathon. When you hit 18 to 20 miles, your body can start falling apart. Okay. And you may go from this to this. Your hips may not be opening up as much. Your knee lift might not be as significant or as effective as it was before. Okay, so by maintaining an even rhythm, whether you're on the flats or uphills, even if you slow down, if you maintain rhythm, that's a good thing, or as evenly as you can. When you level off, even when you're going down okay? You try to maintain, you will obviously accelerate and run faster going down, but if you can maintain a similar rhythm, you're going to be in good shape. Now, a few things with regards to cadence. When you're running up hills, you want to lean into the hill, pumping your arms, okay? Lifting your knees, pumping back and forth, okay? When you're going downhill, you also want to lean into the hill, okay? You want to be perpendicular to the hill, okay? If you lean back, not only are you potentially transitioning over to a heel to toe, which gives you a little bit of a braking mechanism, but you're also putting stress on a lot of your joints that you don't need to put, okay? Whether it be your lower back, your knees, your Achilles. So it's something to keep in mind as well. The idea is to preserve the body as much as possible, conserve its energy, and the more efficient you run, the better energy, or the easier it is going to be for you to conserve energy, okay? Which brings me to the next one, which is foot strike, okay? There's heel to toe, there's midfoot, there's ball of the foot. I'm a huge proponent. I recommend midfoot to forefoot strike, okay, for a number of reasons. One, shock absorption, okay. Two, running efficiently. You know, if you're standing here, okay, and I encourage you to try this yourself. Lift your toes up so you're just on your heel, and you try to jump up. You're just jumping off your heel and you land on your heel. So you're jumping off of a bone and you're landing on your bone. You're not going to get any height. You're not going to get any shock absorption coming down. Okay? Now, you're on the balls of your feet and try to jump. Huge difference. That's the difference between a midfoot strike and a ball of foot strike and a heel strike. You get the shock absorption, plus you're also getting a much more efficient stride pattern. Okay? And if you think about it this way, if you're running off the balls of your feet, you get a much better knee lift, which helps open up your stride. Okay? And the flexibility routine helps open up your hips in order for you to maximize things like this. Okay? And again, it's going to put you in a position to run as efficiently as possible for as long as possible. There is fatigue that takes place in racing, obviously, but the more efficient you are, the more you can minimize that fatigue. Okay? And even accelerate and run faster at the end if you have the opportunity to do so. Okay? So, midfoot, forefoot is my recommendation. If you're heel to toe and you want to transition over, I recommend you do it very slowly and very gradually. The last thing you want to do is make drastic changes to your running posture, put yourself in a position for injury. Okay, everything's got to be a gradual process. Okay, so something to keep in mind. Next one, this one's big. Goals. Okay, it's a good idea to set long-term goals and short-term goals. Let's say you want to run a half marathon in the spring and a full marathon in the fall. Okay, so the goal is to set up your training for the half marathon in the spring, then take a breather, right? Some easy running and a little bit of time off, and then start your build up for the marathon in the fall. Okay? Schedule is number one thing. Okay? So you set your races and then you build the training around it. And if you want to run races leading up to the goal race, it's important to schedule them in if you can first so that you can effectively build the training around it. Okay? Secondly, how often should you race? This is a question that I don't know a lot of people how to ask, okay? And it is important, okay? And the next video I'm going to post up is going to go over exactly how often you should race, and I'm going to do it from every event from 800 all the way up to the marathon. How often should you race, and what distances should they be to put yourself in a good position to run your best when you need it the most? Last thing you want to do is be at your sharpest and either race too much and be at your sharpest 4 to 6 weeks early, or not race at all and be rusty on a marathon. And the marathon's not like a 5K. You can't come back the following week and try it again. It takes a heck of a lot longer to recover from. So it's something to keep in mind. You want to try to plan out your training effectively, and if you're going to run a race or a fitness indicator / time trial, let's plug them in accordingly, because there is essentially about an 8-week window where you're at your best racing form. And we want that 8-week window to be the last 8 weeks and not the middle 8 weeks and not the first 8 weeks. So setting your training up based on your goals is very, very, very important. All right. Last but not least, specificity and variety. It kind of ties into number 2. Specificity, when you're training for the half marathon in the spring and the marathon in the fall, that's your specific race. So most of the training is going to be specific to that. And then in the fall as well. That said, variety it's important to have in your training. So let's say the half marathon. You want to have some marathon runs in there, marathon pace runs for your aerobic development, okay? And then you want to have some VO2 max or speed development stuff at 5K pace, 3K pace, 10K pace, okay? The more versatile you are, the more effective you're going to be, and the better position you're going to put yourself in to run really well, okay? And think about it too. If you're a beginner, okay, let's say this is your first time half, I encourage you to get your long run up to maybe 10 or 12 miles if you can. If you're experienced, let's get it up to 14, 16, or 18, depending on how experienced you are and what you've done up to that point, as well as your lifestyle and the time that you have available to train and so on and so forth, and what type of mileage and volume you've run at, want to run at, and can tolerate, okay? All those things come into play, okay? Because you ideally want to put yourself in a position to transition from that half marathon to the marathon, or vice versa, or from that half marathon down to a 5K, 10K, or vice versa, okay? And if you're doing stuff on the longer end than the shorter end, you're addressing all the components from anaerobic to aerobic to VO2 max to speed development. You get your long runs, hills, okay? So you're building strength in a lot of different ways. And think about it this way too. If you happen to be in, it's a low-key race and you're not expecting this, but you happen to be in the top 2 or top 3. And it could happen. It could put you in a position to win your age group or win the race. The more versatile and well-rounded your training is, the better position you're going to be to maximize an opportunity like that, to potentially win a race or finish stronger. It could become a tactical thing, okay? And you never know. Some races start slow and finish fast. Some races start fast, slow, and finish fast. You never really know what you're going to expect. So it's important to run the race you want to run, nobody else's race, but it's important to add variety to your training, which gives you an opportunity to make adjustments that you might need to during a race, okay? In a consistent way, too, and that's one of the last things I'll get to. Consistency. It's obviously, so let's take a 12-week half marathon program. I break it down into 3 blocks of 4 weeks each. For marathon, let's say 16 weeks, I break it into 4 weeks times 4. And each cycle, there are different dynamics, because it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to adapt physiologically to a certain training cycle, okay? And by doing that, it allows you to catch your race while you're still on the upswing and not on the downtrend, okay? That's the ideal scenario. And if you look at my videos, I have 12-week detailed half marathon training programs, detailed by the day, by the week, by the month. I've got 16-week detailed marathon training programs. I also have fitness indicators. I have time trial videos, a 1-mile time trial video, which tells you what your abilities are for 3K, 5K, and 800, 400, as well as a half marathon time trial or fitness indicator, which tells you where you could be for the marathon and the 10K, so higher and lower. And that transitions into another video that I have, which gives you the ability to set your appropriate training paces based on what you ran for these time trials. And if you want to do a time trial in the beginning, I encourage you to have about 6 to 8 weeks of base running before doing it, because it's a more accurate indicator of your fitness. So I encourage you to watch these videos. So click the subscribe button and click the bell next to the subscribe button, because then you'll know when I drop this video next week. You'll know when it happens. That way you can watch it right away, and it'll give you an idea, a really good idea of how to set up some of your training, okay? And look out for some other videos. I'm going to be posting some videos on, how do you train, or can you train when you're sick, okay? And how should you make adjustments in your training when you're sick? Or how do you train in the extreme weather, extreme cold, extreme heat, okay? There are adjustments you have to make. I'm going to post videos on all these, so I do encourage you to click the subscribe button so you can enjoy the benefit of all of them. So I hope this was helpful and informative for you today. Good luck to you this season, and I'll talk to you soon.